Now and Then is a short film about a middle-aged woman who, while moving house, discovers an old box of tapes that her husband's previous relationship are sort of etched into. And as the film goes on, she becomes increasingly obsessed. So the idea for Now and Then kind of came from what I see a lot in like British Pakistani culture and specifically South Asian cultures, which is this idea that everyone's kind of holding back secrets from each other, and there's a lot of stuff that's unsaid and done behind closed doors. Specifically, a lot of relationships with, say, people from different cultures and different backgrounds that are kept secret from their families. So I kind of wanted to explore that, told from various different points of view, so including the person who's being kept a secret, the person who's keeping the secret, and also someone who finds out way later down the line. I'd say in terms of the writing process, initially it was something that I started to write myself maybe 3 or 4 years ago, and I kept on redrafting it and thinking this isn't working, this doesn't really feel right, and I kind of kept it in the wardrobe or on the shelf, however you say, and eventually brought it back with my co-writer Connor Cahill-Hayes, and we sat down and we just kept on working on it again. And it wasn't until we sort of started to change the viewpoints in the film, changing the perspective to the wife character rather than the husband character, that kind of changed the way we saw the film. And sort of, I think before we were seeing this protagonist, this male protagonist, as kind of a bad person. I wasn't really getting along with him. I wasn't really feeling for him. But when we changed it to his wife, suddenly there was a whole new angle and a whole new sort of almost messaging that we could explore. We knew that half the film was going to be these VHS flashbacks and half the film was going to be these sort of present day moments. So we wanted to keep the visual language different, like even things like keeping the camera very static, all the movement was very slow, and we had sliders or we just had sticks. We didn't really have handheld movement in modern day, whereas everything in the VHS times was completely different. We were constantly like handheld. Everything needed to feel completely real and authentic. And it even came down to the way that we chose to work with actors in all the flashback stuff. I had a script, but I used it very much as a loose blueprint. And I said to the actors, look, this is kind of the vibe of the scene, but take it further. You have your character, just like keep going and filming yourself. Because we didn't want that to feel like it was shot by Simon. We wanted it to feel like it was shot by the characters. And then so to juxtapose that with the modern day, it needed to be like tight and still and kind of representative of that later stage in life.
For instance, shooting on the V-RAPTOR, the camera was small body, and we were in very tight locations. Even in like a small space in a small location, we still had shallow depth of field, which was kind of, and early on we spoke about having, the house itself, it's really empty. So it's quite, I think that was maybe the biggest challenge of the film is making it cinematic and it being a really empty location. And obviously they're just about to move out and they're packing up. So, like in terms of lamps and stuff, we had to make quite conscious decisions on how much we would have on. Like if it was down to me, I'd have more lamps on, but then it doesn't make sense for the story. So it was kind of a balance of that. So in terms of lenses, because we were shooting on the red, I wanted, and it's an 8K sensor, it's a very clean sensor. I wanted something with a little bit more quirk to it. So I chose for the Canon FD lenses, which are, vintage Canon glass, but they were rehoused. So basically we could use them on set and we wouldn't have any issues. Also used quite a bit of filtration. I used like glimmer glass and low contrast filters just to I wanted to capture as much as I could in camera and make the look as sort of strong as it could be in camera again. We came into red like a month or 2 months before the shoot. We did some tests. I took that away and made a LUT, and then we sort of burnt the LUT into the dailies, and then in the editor and Harris, when they were editing, they could sort of see how I saw it and we saw it. And we kind of kept the look very consistent, to be honest, even in the final grade, which was done at Digital Orchard by Joe Barker. Really loved working with the camera, the form factor, the sensor size. We needed a big sensor so that if we would put a wider lens on, it wouldn't start bending in the corners. We wanted straight lines. We didn't really want any sort of quirkiness in the edges happening. I think we kind of wanted it to be really focused on on what was going on. If you look at one of the last shots of the film, where we sort of decide the camera to actually move, because most of the time the camera doesn't move, we start on a frame with lots of boxes in the foreground, and then we move the camera through it, and we kind of show that as, you know, a moment of moving on, moving past, and, you know, accepting the past and you know, enjoying the next part of their life.
For the post-production process, I worked with Alex Stewart, an editor that I've worked with multiple times, and we've kind of built up a level of trust. So I felt like for this project, I could give him all the footage, plus the script, the storyboard, all the work that we'd done in prep, and say, based on this, and based on your own intuition and what you want to make, and the story that you want to tell, give me the first draft. So a couple of weeks went by, and he gave me this first draft that we'd moved a lot of the stuff around, a lot of the scenes around, and kind of changed quite a few things. So we kind of ended up going quite back and forth and reworking that back into essentially, like, timeline-wise, more of the original film, but kind of giving him like a bit more ownership over the pace, because I think editors have such a good sense of pace in a film. It's almost like through just repetitive editing, they've kind of come to understand exactly what beat to cut on. So I kind of left that to him a lot more, and I was a bit more hands-on with just trying to make sure that I was capturing the performance, but also capturing some key moments. And there's one cut in particular that stayed from the first draft through to the final film, which is about maybe a third into the film, when the image of Ella saying "I love you" keeps repeating, and on the third repeat, it just cuts in the middle of it, to just Aisha just sitting at the edge of a bed, just still. And I thought it was my favorite cut in the film, still is. And that was all Alex Stewart's doing, so that was amazing. And then for sound design, that was very, very important. It never felt like the film was anywhere near done until the sound design was in place, because there was just so many areas where that was going to be needed to do sound bridges and to sort of weave everything in with the music. So we had this incredible sound designer, Gabriel Hansen, and our musician, Ben Jones, who put together this entire score for the entire film. And bless him, went back and forth with me as I was like telling him I want to feel this at this moment, I want to feel this at this moment. We were blessed on this project to be working with just amazing, kind, genuine people who just love making films. So I think that helped us a lot. So the main thing that the audience hopefully will take away from this is not to be attached to the past and not to obsess over it, and to just move forward and stay in the present moment.